Hi, welcome to Common Sense Creation. This is a brand new channel of mine where I share with you all of the evidence that I've gathered and that I'm gathering, weighing it out, but the evidence that causes me to believe in an almighty and eternal God. If you like what we're discussing on this channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. And if you just like the video, then just click the like button, but that would be appreciated. A few nights ago, I watched a snippet from a discussion with Ben Stein and with Professor Dawkins. He's from England, and Professor Dawkins is an atheist, and he's very outspoken against the existence of God. And one of the things that Ben Stein asked him was, "How did this all begin?" And Dr. Dawkins says that, well, some time ago, I forget what the number was, it was like in the millions of years ago, that it started with the world's first self-replicating molecule. Um, Now, Dr. Dawkins was asked by Ben Stein that, can you explain how did that happen? And of course, Dr. Dawkins did not know. Dr. Dawkins also says nobody knows, and I agree. They've been trying to find the origin of life ever since I was a kid, and even before that. So my point of this channel, my point of these discussions is this: you don't need to have a bunch of letters after your name proving that you're a scientist, a biologist, a physicist. You don't need to have those to question, to ask questions and weigh out the evidence for yourself. And when I say weigh out the evidence, every time you pick up new evidence, you have to weigh it out starting from the beginning and take all the evidence together and then make your verdict. And that's kind of like what I do. Now, I had a problem with the first self-replicating molecule because number one, I don't think you can call it science because in science you have to be able to observe it so that you can test it. And of course, we can't go back 80 some million years ago and test the first molecule. So that was problem number one. Problem number two with that is that if the earth, as they say, was this primordial soup, I can't even say it, soup where everything was sloshing around, and then all of a sudden a molecule that was able to replicate itself all of a sudden appeared. Now, if that happened, and I don't think it did, but if it happened, the problem I have is this. Number one, that molecule would need a blueprint on how to replicate itself, just like DNA is the code book for you. It literally builds you because it's a code book filled with enough information that you can replicate yourself. Your cells can replicate. Um, so I so the problem I have is, well, with the DNA, with the first self-replicating molecule, if it doesn't have a DNA, then how does it know what to replicate? But also the problem I have was the molecule would need to have had everything come together at the same time, and the chances of that are I consider them nil. So all the components comes together at the same time. Um, and it's very complex because, for instance, the amino acids uh, have to be all left-handed. There could be no right-handed amino acids to form protein that we use. And I don't know how many amino acids there are, but there's a lot. So it gets the right amino acids correct on the, well, maybe not on the first try, but it gets it correct. Okay, fine. Um, Nourishment, that this molecule would have to nourish itself. Now, how does it know what it needs and what it doesn't need? Keep in mind, it's in the middle of a primordial soup. So what does it need? What doesn't it need? So it needs a nutritional system. It also would need a respiratory system because without oxygen, it will die. so it needs a respiratory system. Then it needs a circulatory vascular system, because how are you going to circulate and nourish the molecule if there's no circulatory system? And lastly, an elimination system where it keeps what it needs and it gets rid of what it doesn't need. Now, how would it know what to get rid of with all these components, all these chemicals floating around? How would it know what it needs and what it doesn't need, what it keeps, what's it excrete? Um, so that question, obviously, it has not been answered. Um, and then now we've got back to the DNA. The DNA, if there's not a DNA present, it doesn't know what to replicate. Now, the DNA, most scientists will say that it contains enough information, enough code to fill a library of 1,000 books, give or take a few books, but it would fill that many books. Now, doesn't that seem like intelligence to you? Because if it's a code, um, that to me, that says intelligence. Now, if you were walking on a beach and you found a pile of stones, it arrived in a pile, you could say, well, that's just the tide, and over time they collected themselves, and that would be reasonable. But if you were walking along and you seen stones arranged in an outline that says, John loves Jane, what would you conclude? Would that be random or would that be intelligence? I would say that that's intelligence. So, how can anyone say that the DNA does not arrive by intelligence, by a designer? Now, uh, I was reading a page on the University of South Carolina, and they were talking about just a single strand of DNA or just a single molecule of DNA, and I'm paraphrasing now. The chances of that happening by itself was something like 1 to 10 to the 89,000th power. Astronomical. I consider that, there's no chance it could have. Now, as far as this, back to the self replicating molecule, um, and I got this off of a page. It's Evolution Frequently Asked Questions, where they reduced it. The Christians are saying the chances of that happening is 1 in 10 to the, I don't know, some kind of like 300th power. But now this guy reduced it and says no, that the chances of the self-replicating molecule happening is actually possible now, because the chances of that happening is actually 1 to the 40th power, 10 to the 40th power. Now, I'll ask you this. Now, that's 1 with 40 zeros after it. If you were going to have an operation and a doctor says you will be cured after this operation, however, you have a chance of surviving this. Your chance in surviving this is 1 in 10 to the 40th power. Would you have the operation? I wouldn't have the operation, and I don't think you would either. So what I'm getting at is statistics. The statistics and the chances of this happening is pretty much nil. To me, that sounds like an intelligent designer designed everything. What do you think about that? Now, next time I want to talk about the archaeological evidence that proves the Bible, because I've heard it so many times that the Bible has been disproved, 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 and it's never been disproved. We'll talk about that next time. But like I said, you don't need a PhD to be thinking and questioning things. So think this out, think things out. If you're searching, think them out, analyze them, and just like a juror would do, come up with a verdict. Well, until next time, stay safe, take care of yourself, and I will see you soon. And I love you. Bye bye now.